People would talk about that wedding for years, the day Calabar stood still. Some said it was magic, others swore it was madness. But whether you believed in love, luck, or Lagos influencers gone wild, one thing was certain. No one had ever seen a wedding like the one between Daniel Ekbo and Imah Efyong. It started like a rumor. 2 weeks before the event, whispers flew through town like harmattan dust. "Have you heard?" people asked. "That big wedding they say will block Marion Road. Them say even helicopters go lando." By Monday, every tailor in Calabar South was sewing white lace. Hairdressers were booked till night. Makeup artists moved around with ring lights bigger than street lamps. The whole city seemed to be preparing. Not because everyone was invited, but because no one wanted to miss it. Daniel Ekbo was the kind of man who made things happen. 32, tall, soft-spoken, always in white linen. He owned a chain of lounges and a car dealership in town. People said he was humble, but others said that kind of humility only came from someone who already had everything. Imah Efyong, on the other hand, was Calabar's sweetheart. She had beauty that made even jealous people smile. Light-skinned, smart, always laughing, she worked as an event planner and ran a small interior design studio near Watt Market. When she posted her engagement video, Daniel kneeling on a beach in Uyo while fireworks exploded behind them, it got over 2 million views in 3 days. The internet crowned them the perfect couple. Everyone expected their wedding to be beautiful, but no one, not even the city council, expected it to turn into a national sensation. The morning of the wedding arrived with golden sunlight spilling over the rooftops of Calabar. From early dawn, the streets were alive. Hawkers were shouting, police officers blocking roads, and buses packed with people wearing all white outfits. Even the clouds looked like they dressed for the occasion. At the center of all this was the Grand Pearl Hall, a newly built event center on the hill near Tinapa. It was white from gate to roof, surrounded by palm trees and glass fountains. From a distance, it looked like a castle dipped in milk. Inside, everything shimmered. The floor was covered in white roses, the chairs were white, even the air smelled of coconut and vanilla. There was a massive chandelier in the middle of the hall that glittered like crushed diamonds. Every table had golden plates and tall candles. Guests said it looked like heaven on earth. By 10 a.m., influencers had already started live streaming. "Guys, I'm at the biggest wedding Calabar has ever seen," shouted a young woman holding a phone with ring light attached. "Check out this decor! Oh my God, look at the bride's entrance door. It's automated!" The bride hadn't even arrived yet, but the internet was already boiling. Hashtags like Calabar White Wedding and Danimah 2025 were trending on X and TikTok. Outside, a convoy of white G-Wagons lined the road. Each had a number plate engraved with D and I forever. Motorcycles decorated with white ribbons escorted them. People gathered by the roadside, taking selfies with the cars. It was like a movie premiere. When Daniel finally arrived, he stepped out of the lead car wearing an all-white agbada embroidered with silver threads. The sun reflected off his wristwatch, a Rolex that could buy a house in Satellite Town. He smiled and waved at the cheering crowd. But even his grand arrival couldn't prepare people for what came next. At exactly 11:45 a.m., a helicopter appeared in the sky, gliding low over the venue. People gasped and started filming. "Not the governor?" someone asked. "No, that's the bride." And yes, it was Imah. The helicopter door opened midair, and there she was, dressed in a flowing white gown that shimmered like crushed ice. Her veil trailed behind her like smoke. The wind caught it, making it flutter like angel wings. The pilot hovered gently over a white carpet rolled out in front of the hall, and 2 ushers helped her step down. Phones went up everywhere. "Jesus!" shouted a woman. "See as the bride they descend from heaven!" Within minutes, the video hit social media. People couldn't believe their eyes. "Na movie," one comment read. "Is this Calabar or Dubai?" The wedding had officially broken the internet. As she walked down the aisle, the live band switched to a soft version of Perfect by Ed Sheeran, mixed with Efik drums. Her father, Chief Effiong, walked beside her, smiling proudly in his white senator outfit. The crowd stood up, eyes glistening as camera flashes bathed the hall in sparkles. Daniel couldn't take his eyes off her. When she finally reached him, he whispered, "You look like a dream." She laughed softly. "And you look like the dreamer." The officiating pastor, Reverend Okon, raised his hand and began the ceremony. His voice boomed through the hall, strong and clear. "Marriage," he said, "is not only the union of two hearts, but of two destinies. May this day be remembered for generations." He was right. It would be remembered indeed, though not in the way anyone expected. By afternoon, the reception had turned into something out of a magazine. Celebrities arrived in white lace and agbadas, paparazzi snapped endlessly, and a popular comedian hosted the event. The band played high-life tunes that made even elderly women dance. Food was endless, from afang soup to coconut rice, roasted prawns, and plantain boats served in shell plates. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the couple's first dance. The lights dimmed and the DJ played a slow tune. Daniel took Imah's hand, pulling her close. The chandelier lights reflected on her gown, making her glow. Guests clapped softly as they danced, lost in each other's eyes. Then suddenly, boom! A loud spark shot from one of the indoor fireworks. Gasps filled the hall. The music stopped. Then, boom, boom, boom! More sparks shot up, scattering bright flames across the white drapes. People screamed. The decorator's assistant rushed with a fire extinguisher but slipped on spilled champagne. The hall filled with smoke. The wedding that had started like a fairy tale was turning into chaos. But just when panic was about to spread completely, Daniel's cousin, a firefighter by profession, grabbed another extinguisher and acted fast. In less than 2 minutes, the fire was put out. No one was hurt, but the internet had caught everything live. Hashtag Calabar wedding fire trended instantly. Videos of people shouting, "Jesus! Jesus!" flooded social media. Memes appeared within minutes. One captioned, "Even fire wanted to witness their love." By evening, the hall was safe again and the party resumed like nothing happened. If anything, the small fire only made the wedding more famous. Bloggers wrote headlines like, "The wedding that survived fire and still slayed." The crowd danced harder, the DJ doubled the volume, and somewhere between laughter, champagne, and flashing lights, Daniel whispered to Imah, "We just made history." She smiled, "History? We just broke the internet." And she was right, because what happened later that night made the earlier chaos look like child's play. By 7 p.m., the city lights of Calabar glittered like fallen stars. The streets around the Grand Pearl Hall were jammed with cars and people still trying to get in. Vendors selling coconut drinks and roasted fish shouted beside photographers snapping pictures of guests in all-white attire. Inside, the hall had transformed into a nightclub. The chandeliers dimmed to a warm glow, the DJ had switched from high life to Afro beats, and the dance floor was full. Daniel and Imah had changed into their second outfits. She in a sparkling white jumpsuit with feathers on the shoulders, he in a white tuxedo that looked imported straight from Italy. The energy was electric. Every song was a hit. Every camera was live. Influencers were shouting into their phones, "You guys, this wedding is insane! They just brought in a live band from Ghana!" And then came the big surprise Daniel had been planning for months. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC announced with a grin, "are you ready for something that has never happened before in Calabar?" The crowd screamed. Lights dimmed completely. A slow drum beat started, joined by soft violin strings. The massive LED screen behind the stage lit up with a video montage, Daniel and Imah's love story, from their first date in Marina Resort to their pre-wedding shoot on the Calabar River. Then, the screen split open, literally. The LED panel slid apart, revealing a hidden platform rising slowly from the floor. On it stood a popular Nigerian singer, one of the country's biggest stars, holding a microphone and dressed in a white agbada covered in crystals. The crowd lost it. People screamed, some ran forward with their phones. "Na Burna Boy, oh, Jesus!" someone shouted. Though it wasn't Burna Boy, it was Davido himself, smiling as the first beats of Feel filled the hall. The internet exploded. Live streams hit millions of views instantly. TikTok couldn't keep up. Daniel grinned and whispered to Imah, "Told you this night would make history." She just laughed and covered her face, overwhelmed. Davido's performance was pure magic. He sang 3 songs while the couple danced. At one point, he called them to the stage and said, "Love is beautiful, especially when money follow 'em." The crowd roared with laughter. But while everyone was watching the stage, something else was happening outside. At the gate, a convoy of motorcycles suddenly appeared. Not invited guests, but a group of popular vloggers and TikTok comedians who had come from Lagos to crash the viral wedding. They wore white outfits, carried cameras, and shouted, "We came for content!" The security guards tried to stop them, but one of the vloggers went live on Instagram shouting, "They don't want us in! Is this not the people's wedding?" Within minutes, hundreds of online viewers flooded the comments, calling for them to be let in. Daniel, ever the showman, got a message from his security head and smiled. "Let them in. It's all love." The gate opened, and chaos followed. The TikTokers burst in like a carnival parade. They were dancing, singing, and throwing white confetti into the air. One of them even climbed on a chair shouting, "Content! Content!" At first, the guests laughed. It was entertaining. But then, one of the vloggers accidentally bumped into the cake table. Now, this wasn't just any cake table. It was a 12-tier masterpiece. White icing, crystal decorations, even a small indoor fountain flowing around its base. It had taken 2 full days to set up. The moment the man hit the table, the structure wobbled. A waiter screamed. Then in slow motion, the cake leaned, tilted, and collapsed into a soft explosion of white cream and glitter. The entire hall went silent. Imah froze. Daniel's jaw dropped. And then someone in the crowd shouted, "Record it!" That was all it took. Cameras went up everywhere. The internet devoured it instantly. Within 10 minutes, the hashtag #WeddingCakeFall trended nationwide. But just when it looked like disaster, Imah did something no one expected. She burst out laughing. Not fake laughter, real, full, joyous laughter. She dipped her fingers into the fallen cake, scooped a bit, and smeared it on Daniel's cheek. The hall erupted with cheers. Daniel joined in, smearing frosting on her forehead. The band started playing again. Davido shouted from the stage, "That's how love should be. Turn Wahala to party." The crowd roared. Even the vloggers who caused the accident were forgiven. Someone brought in another cake, smaller, but enough for the couple to cut while smiling for the cameras. That clip, Imah laughing with cake on her face, Daniel smiling beside her, became the single most shared video in Nigeria that year. But the night wasn't over yet. As the last guests were leaving, something strange happened. Suddenly, a loud sound came from outside. Loud drums, then horns, then singing. People looked around confused. The MC ran to the door, then burst out laughing. Outside the hall, hundreds of locals from nearby communities had gathered. All dressed in white, they carried lanterns, drums, and palm branches. They had heard about the wedding and decided to throw their own street celebration. Daniel and Imah stepped out, stunned. The locals cheered for them, singing epic love songs. The couple joined the dance, still in their white clothes, surrounded by people they had never met before. It was spontaneous, wild, beautiful. the kind of moment that could only happen in Africa. Someone streamed it live. Within minutes, the video had over 1 million views. By morning, every major blog in Nigeria had shared it with headlines like, Calabar couple turned wedding into citywide festival. From cake fall to carnival, how Daniel and Imah broke the internet. Back at their hotel that night, long after the noise had faded, Daniel and Imah sat on the balcony, still dressed in white, watching fireworks light up the city. Daniel held her hand and whispered, "Do you realize people will talk about today for years?" She smiled softly. "I just hope they remembered the love more than the drama." He laughed. In this generation, they'll remember everything. He was right again, because by morning, clips of their wedding had reached CNN Africa, BBC Pidgin, and even wedding blogs in South Africa. The story spread far beyond Nigeria: the fire scare, Davido's surprise, the cake fall, and the street carnival. People called it the unforgettable wedding that broke the internet. And for the next few weeks, Calabar became a tourist attraction. People visited the hall just to take pictures of the place where the magic happened. Little did anyone know that what happened after the honeymoon would be even more shocking. Something no one could have predicted. 2 weeks after the legendary wedding, Calabar still hadn't recovered. Billboards around town carried photos of Daniel and Imah smiling in their white outfits. Beauty salons used the wedding photos as decoration. Vendors even started selling D&I Forever shirts at Watt Market. On social media, clips of the helicopter entrance, the cake fall, and the street carnival were still trending. Every other day, new edits appeared, some romantic, others funny. The couple had become instant celebrities. Daniel's businesses exploded with attention. His car dealership received offers from Lagos and Accra. Imah's event planning company got over 50 new bookings in 1 week. People said she was now the woman who made weddings look like heaven. But as the fame grew, so did the pressure. They had planned to go to Mauritius for their honeymoon, but the overwhelming media attention made them change their minds. Instead, they flew quietly to Ubuntu Mountain Resort in Cross River, away from the cameras, hoping for peace. At first, it was perfect. The mountain air was cold and fresh, the view endless. They hiked, laughed, and watched sunsets together. For a few days, they were just Daniel and Imah, not the viral couple. But fame doesn't rest easily. Even at the resort, tourists recognized them. Someone secretly recorded them eating breakfast and posted it online with the caption, "They still look in love." The video went viral again. Daniel began to get frustrated. He said, "We can't even breathe," one morning, tossing his phone onto the bed. Imah tried to smile. "It's just attention. It'll fade soon." But deep down, she wasn't sure. By the time they returned to Calabar, things had changed. The viral fame that once felt exciting now felt like a storm that wouldn't end. Every day, bloggers wrote new stories, some real, most made up. One headline read, "Did Daniel cheat already?" Another claimed, "Imah pregnant after 2 weeks?" The rumors spread like wildfire. People who didn't know them spoke about their marriage as if they lived next door. Imah began avoiding social media. She poured herself into work, planning weddings for other people. But the irony was cruel. Every bride now wanted her to make our wedding go viral, like yours. Daniel, meanwhile, was busy expanding his business. He started traveling frequently, Port Harcourt, Abuja, even Ghana. The distance slowly creeped in. One evening, 3 months after the wedding, they had their first real argument. "You're always working," Imah said, her voice shaking. "Do you even notice me anymore?" Daniel looked up from his laptop. "I'm working for us, Imah. You think this life runs on fairy tales?" "It used to be," she whispered. He sighed. "You want a fairy tale? Go back on Instagram. That's where it lives." Her eyes filled with tears. "You think all this was for social media?" Silence. The same silence that sometimes kills love slowly, not loudly. That night, Daniel went out for a business meeting at his lounge. When he returned, he found her asleep on the couch holding their wedding photo. He sat beside her quietly, looking at the picture, both of them in white, smiling under the chandelier, surrounded by lights and laughter. He whispered, "How did we let noise from outside reach in here?" He didn't know she was awake. She heard him, but said nothing. The following week, a massive surprise awaited them. A major international magazine reached out. They wanted to feature their wedding as the most talked about wedding in Africa. They even offered to fly them to Cape Town for an exclusive photo shoot and interview. It was the kind of opportunity most couples would dream of. But when the message came, Daniel hesitated. "I don't know, Imah," he said. "Do we really want to keep feeding this thing?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe we don't have to feed it. Maybe we can fix the story, tell the truth about us." He looked at her, realizing she was right. The internet had told their story in 100 wrong ways. Maybe it was time to tell it properly. The Cape Town trip turned out to be healing. Away from Calabar, they rediscovered what had brought them together. Laughter, inside jokes, and the way they finished each other's sentences. During the interview, the journalist asked, "How does it feel to have your wedding break the internet?" Daniel smiled. "It feels like standing in the rain at first. It's exciting, but after a while, you just want shelter." Imah added softly, "The real wedding begins after the internet forgets you." That quote went viral too, but this time for the right reason. People shared it as a reminder that love wasn't about the show, the cameras, or the hashtags. It was about endurance. Months passed. The noise slowly died down. The internet found new trends, new weddings, new scandals. But for Calabar, the memory of that white wedding never faded. The hall still hosted events, but none ever matched that magic. Locals still pointed at the sky and said, "That's where the helicopter came from." Children pretended to be the viral bride and groom. Daniel and Imah learned to live quietly, focusing on real life instead of online fame. They used their newfound popularity to launch a charity, the White Hearts Foundation, helping young couples plan affordable weddings without pressure to go viral. Their first project helped 10 couples get married that year. 1 year later, on their anniversary, Daniel planned a small dinner by the Calabar River. No cameras, no celebrities, no internet, just candlelight, laughter, and peace. He handed Imah a simple white flower and said, "Last year, the world saw us. This year, it's just us." She smiled. "That's enough." He nodded. "Still unforgettable, though." She laughed. "Always." The next morning, someone walking along the river noticed 2 white doves flying over the water and whispered, "See them? The spirit of that wedding still lives." And in a way, it did. Because for years to come, whenever people in Calabar spoke about weddings, they'd begin with, "Do you remember that all-white wedding that broke the internet?" And everyone would smile, because they remembered. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting stories.